It's looking increasingly likely that Americans will be barred from entering the bloc when external borders open on the 1st of July. But Belgium is gearing up for the new school year in September. And what they have in place is this color-coded traffic light system. So green being for the best case scenario, red for the worst.
Tesa Arcilla, Janice Mackey-Freyer, Keir Simmons, joining us from around the world. Thank you so much.
This assessment of autonomy from China is the prerequisite for the United States and Hong Kong to continue this special economic relationship that allows the U.S. by law to treat Hong Kong differently from China. Mike Pompeo's statements will definitely get a reaction from China. China already called that blackmail, and they say they will react with countermeasures. And as we've been here the last few days reporting, these protests we're seeing is just the beginning of a new wave of protests, and we could definitely expect that, Chuck.
That's for sure.
And it was very important that it have international support.
No, absolutely, Andrea. And as Janice was saying, that there's a sense of fear here that this could mark the end of the one country, two systems, something that Hong Kongers really take pride in. Arrests have already been made so far this afternoon.
Tessa, can you show us your bracelet again real quick? When you mentioned it, we were seeing video.
Here
yes.
you go.
See, that's a real welcome sign to NBC. Tessa's our new correspondent.
And it concluded basically that this is not achievable because even in a country like Spain, which is one of the hardest hit in Europe, only 5%, that's 5% of the population develop antibodies.
And new ideas in the Netherlands. Correspondent Tesa Arcilla is there.
What does dining out in a post-lockdown world look like? Well, it could look like this. Table for two in a little glass house.
It's a big deal. You know, Americans make up a massive chunk of tourists that come to Europe.
And it won't tell you whether you're immune or if you have enough antibodies to fight off another infection. But now with the second presidency, it seems like it's a bit more likely. And I just want to bring up, there's a lot of surveys since the Obama administration, the perception of the U.S. has been in decline. From the unrest of the late 60s to the 1989 Tiananmen crackdown and the 1997 handover from British to Chinese rule, Hong Kong is no stranger to waves of emigration. It's a pattern that may be repeating itself. Now, scenes like these have become a lot more common in the past year on the streets of Hong Kong, and it is this that has gotten more Hong Kongers thinking about whether to leave their hometown for good. It has been a tense day in Hong Kong today. You see, the riot police are out, protesters. There have been thousands on the streets today despite a ban on gatherings. It's a problem that's surfacing in all corners of the world, including Hong Kong, where widespread mask usage is credited for some of its success in containing the virus, with only 4 COVID-19 deaths since the pandemic began. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone in Hong Kong who isn't wearing a mask, and they're readily available in shops here. More countries now are following in Hong Kong's footsteps. And in March of this year, the World Health Organization estimated that we'd need some 89 million masks for medical workers per month. Now imagine if entire populations wore one every single day. We've just landed in Hong Kong, and before we get off the plane, we had to fill out this form from the Department of Health that talks about the compulsory quarantine that we all have to undergo. And it also tells us about the location device, the tracking device that the government will be giving us to make sure we don't violate the conditions of that quarantine. So I now have a bracelet that was attached to me. This is going to be my tracker for the next 14 days. Hong Kong has only been allowing residents to enter the city, so foreigners or non-residents have been denied entry since the end of March. Okay, From the European Parliament in Brussels, live from the European Parliament in Strasbourg, this is Raw Politics.
The government is right.
I just think she's on the wrong course altogether. I think it's doomed to fail.
We promise to hear all views, all voices.
Populism is a problem. Brexit is a disaster.
We are going to unleash demonic political forces.
Access. You need freedom of access.
We will be unapologetically impartial. Nigel Farage.
The past.
Tony Blair.
Iraq.
And the most important people, of course, that we need to hear from is you. Do get in touch with us on Twitter @Euronews with the hashtag #WarPolitics.